Welcome back to another Askari cast. My name is Rod Van Blake, author of the Ancient Illumination series as well as the Umbani Chronicles. I am joined by Jocelyn Short.
Hi.
She is a concept artist and graphic illustrator, creator of a series called Bearers. She's also been doing a whole bunch of awesome cover work, and there will be a link to her website as well as mine and Jordan's. And Jordan Jackson is here as well.
Hey, everybody.
He is the creator of Eve of Insurrection, Eve of Reclamation, Growing in the Garden, a STEM children's comic, as well as the illustrator on both of my comic book series for Umbani Chronicles and Ancient Illumination graphic novel series. And a lot of the art you see, if you ever see me at a show, has been done by him. They are both awesome. And again, there will be a link to his website as well. And we are here to talk about Ironheart, which just wrapped on Disney Plus. 6 episodes, which feels a little short to me. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Agreed. And they did the Andor thing when they dropped 3 episodes a week, which I was very I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like we could have used 2 more episodes. I the 3 episode drop per week. I thought we were gonna at least get like
Eight,
Andor.
yeah,
Yeah,
eight episodes at least, something like that.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
I wonder. Like I have questions about that. Like I feel like I'm not sure if they're just repeating an Andor formula, because people are binging, but they still want to create an experience of a weekly thing. But also, this was just 2 drops, and
Yeah.
so I'm just like, is this a lack of faith in the IP,
They-
or is this, like there's more story to tell, obviously.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Easily. Easily. And for all, I don't know how the viewership is. I know, we watch it, of course, and there seems to be some buzz around it. There was a lot of complaining early, even before the show even came out, which doesn't make any sense. But they dangled enough, I think, to merit a season 2, or this may end up just being a cog in the grand scheme of the MCU in general, because they finally did the thing at the end. Spoilers if you haven't finished watching Ironheart. They finally did the thing that everybody was going crazy for a couple years ago, to be honest, when WandaVision came out. Everybody was clamoring for this one character that from the comics that they thought were going to bring, and everybody swore every single Easter egg in WandaVision was leading to Mephisto, and we never got it. It was Agatha all along, which sprang into another series. But here at the end of Ironheart, they dropped Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto. But before we get to that, let's break down this 4th episode, Bad Magic, which I liked. We get introduced to another character. What's her name? Zelma?
Zelma, yes.
Yeah.
Velma.
Zelma, yeah, she's got glasses. I was like, Velma? Like, what's going on? But she is Cree Summers' character's daughter. And one of the things that Riri seems to struggle with is asking for help and help in the proper places. She seems to ignore her mom. Natalie's gone, even though she has AI Natalie around to kind of help her. And she finally seeks out her mom for help, and she wants help with magic after her and Nat do a bunch of research on that piece of cloak that they've stolen from Hood. And they find out it's from another dimension. And the title of this episode was Bad Magic. And they said, I guess, did they determine that it was belonging to Dormammu? Is that what it was? The
I
cloak?
feel like that name came up. Yeah, that was the assumption.
Yeah, that it belonged to Dormammu. And so immediately when they start unveiling other things about how deep this is going into the magical realm and black magic or bad magic, Miss Stanton, I forget her first name, Cree Summers' character, immediately flips them out of this like alternate dimension that Zelma brought them to. Like she's got her own little shop. The candy stores, was it Sweets and Reeds? I guess like a bookstore, like candy store, and a bunch of other things, candles, but it's really a cover for this magic shop that they have in Chicago, which I thought was dope. and they also kind of tease. We learn through the dialogue between Miss Stanton and Zelma that her mom Miss Stanton's been to Carmartage, and
Drop it.
yeah, they name, and then she name drops. Zelma does name drops Doctor Strange, and find out that she dropped out of Carmartage to basically raise her daughter. So she's learned and taught herself magic through books and TikToks and some other stuff. They kind of modernized it, which I thought was cool. I don't know what you guys thought about this aspect of the episode.
I
So,
didn't go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Jocelyn. Go ahead.
No, I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was very cool. Like combining MCU magic with kind of real world magic uh, elements. That kind of stuff. I thought it was very very cool. Um, I was hyped,
Yeah,
honestly. That's the just. I was just very hyped. I also thought it was very cool that she had trained to be a sorceress, like so, kind of keeping that element alive. In the storylines outside of Doctor Strange, which was very cool. Like he's not the only one uh, that knows about it, which
hmm
was interesting to me because now I'm curious about like how does that knowledge spread? Like how did she find out about you know all of that and get into that? So
yeah.
yeah.
And
And they're
from
kind of teasing. Kind of teasing Strange Academy from the comics. I don't know if you all are familiar with
oh,
that. I'm not. I've done my
I
little
don't know
internet
anything
research.
about this. This is
I'll
new.
be honest. I'll be honest. I did a little internet research about it. Um, but yes, Zelma's a prominent character. Becomes Doctor Strange's librarian in Strange Academy, where they
Very
have
interesting.
kind of like a mix between Hogwarts and like Xavier's school for the gifted, basically from X-Men. It's like a mix of those two, but they're learning magic. Um, it'd be interesting if they bring a version of that into this. It'll be interesting to see how it fits within everything because we never know what Marvel is going to do, especially with all the weird things that happen in Hollywood with actors and people getting in trouble. So then, as we know, plans change. Um, they're talking about bringing Kang back. We don't know if
Oh,
that'll
I
actually
did
happen.
hear that.
Yeah, so we'll see what actually comes to fruition because they make these plans, put up these schedules, and then half the film. Like I don't know what's up with Blade if they're gonna.
Well,
I
Everything, a lot of
really
things
hope
are in limbo.
I hope that comes to fruition. I really
Yeah,
do.
we all hope. We all hope. So on my end, I really enjoyed the scene where we go to Sweet and Reed's shop. Like it reminded me kind of like Willy Wonka, like in a way, like when they go to that kind of candy store in the beginning of the film. And so it was kind of nice to see that, and then see that it is a front for like they have like a little magical version of the store, underground aspect of the store, the parallel universe or dimension. So that was really cool to see that, and it was just nice to see like to get that kind of like black Harry Potter vibe. And
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, we got, it was nice to see that, and it was to get more context about like Cree Summers' character, and her daughter, and I think that was just cool stuff. I was loving that. I was like, oh, this is dope.
Yeah.
I always like to. I feel like we don't get enough. When we look at like media, we don't get enough like urban fantasy, well, like black urban fantasy, specifically, and like that's just good to see in general. So I was like, dope. I'm happy to see this. I like the connections they're drawing to Strange, and so I was like, this is nice, nice little nugget.
I also loved like to kind of tack on to what you're saying. I really liked Riri's mom's reaction to being in the shop and like they're just spitballing, everything they know about what's
Mhm.
happening, and she's just like every minute, like, why are you all talking like this is casual stuff?
it's normal stuff. Yeah,
Like, why? What's I mean, I also I appreciated that because that felt very realistic to like how maybe anybody would react to that. But I also like how quickly she got on the ball about everything, and her biggest concern was like, you're not clocking how dangerous what you just did is. Like,
Mhm.
you're not clocking that you brought this thing that that you think is possessing somebody, and you brought it in. to
Yeah.
here. And we didn't it didn't have to be like this. If you would have just told me what was going on in the first place, we
Yeah.
could have got help a different way. So I really I loved her mom in this series. I
Mhm.
did.
Yeah. She's kind of getting her little crew together and actually her own little family of people that are going to help her because her problem is she can't solve everything by herself, and she's kind of coming to that conclusion finally, and she's very logical about everything, and she's like, there is an answer to this problem, I'm going to find it. And I think we see her when she sneaks back into Zeke's hideout on the floor with Natalie, and she has an epiphany like, I can't solve this, and that's what leads her to finally fess up and enlist her mom. And then, of course, mom is trying to get the crew. Zay is going to come. They're going to help rebuild her suit after it got destroyed. And then she's going to try and imbue, since they're dealing with something mystical, they come up with the idea, well, let's have some mystical elements into the suit, which is interesting because she clearly, at least initially, doesn't believe in magic. Because even when her and Hood are talking about, well, Hood's like, I don't even know how this works. I don't care how it works. It's magic. And she's like, magic is just how we explain science that we can't understand. There's definitely a methodology, something how there's an explanation how this works. And you can't articulate it. So you just call it magic. But now she kind of embraces the fact that magic does exist. I guess through seeing, because she's in the store in the shop, she gets transported along with everybody else. It was weird and funny when Zelma read the tea leaves, and you see her like, I don't know what that was, honey or what it was, but she slapped that slop across, just hit the wall, and she looks at it. I was like, oh, that's different. That's not like reading the bone. She's reading the tea leaves, and she slammed them up on the wall, and they're all like, I don't know what you're supposed to get from that. It just looked like a mess you made on the wall, but you're somehow she was able to discern something from that. And Riri's trusting that she's actually seeing something and not, just explaining away something that can't be explained. Um, I think the problem with Riri is that she only thinks about solutions, and then we're seeing that she's going down that slippery slope, that she sees a problem that needs to be solved, and she logically is tacking on this magic element, but she's clearly not hearing Zelma say, this is an even trade. Like, there's a price to pay for using magic. You're going to imbue this into your suit. It's going to cost you something. I'm not sure what that cost is, but it's going to cost something. And she's just like, it's a solution. So in that way, I also like the Star Trek playback between her and Xavier when he finally opens the headphones because the ones that he had from Natalie have broken. So he opens the ones, the new fancy ones that Riri got him, and she has the card. It's got the Starfleet badge drawn on it, and she gives him the live long and prosper as she comes out. He calls her Spock like, and she says, "I'm more like a Uhura. I identify more with a Uhura," which was funny. But yeah, she enlists him. I don't think it's until the next episode that he is that the one where he's introduced to AI Nat and goes off. Is that Karma's the glitch?
I thought that was the end of episode 4.
Okay,
Yeah, I feel like that was.
okay, it might have been because I knew that wasn't going to go well.
We all knew that wasn't going to
Yeah.
go well. Like, you can't just walk up to somebody like, "Hey, bring, hey, this is my dead sister is now AI." That's never going to go well.
I mean, that's a theme in this show, right? Is that
Yep.
she's not processing her trauma.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah, that too.
She's not processing her trauma. Her brother has and is grieving, and he's like, absolutely not, man. This is like, I don't accept this. I don't like it because it's not correct. This is not right. Like, she's gone, and you have to accept that she's gone. Um, and obviously he knows that because he's doing what he has some emotional intelligence
yeah,
about him, or at least more than Riri does at this juncture. And she's not clocking that. She's like, listen, I'm just trying to get by. I'm trying to have the solutions. I'm trying to move forward with whatever she thinks she needs to do to just
mhm,
survive.
yeah,
And it's like, hey, a part of that is you need to clock your emotions. You need to clock the stuff that you're feeling, really sit with it. And, this is a part of her arc, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah. So I think, I think you guys are right. It's at the end of that episode that he gets upset and throws away. Another thing with the watches, she's trying to protect everybody with these watches she made that kind of give them a bubble of protection.
that she doesn't talk to anybody about putting them on them. Like she just does it.
She just
She
started handing out watches.
Yeah,
Don't
she
give
just does,
nobody
and she's not telling them
context.
why.
she doesn't get anyone's consent of or
Put
explain
this on.
anything.
What the?
Yeah, it doesn't explain anything to anybody about what it does, what it could do. Why they need it. She just said here. Hello, like, bruh.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Karma is the glitch, which is the next episode 5. I think in the beginning of that is the scene where they're at White Castle, I think, with Zelma, and they're kind of game planning, and the crew is out for Riri. So you see Clown and the 2 MMA fighters, and what's the drag queen's name in here? Starts with S.
Slug?
Yeah,
Is it Slug?
I
Slug.
think. Yeah,
Yeah, Slug
Got
shows
it.
up in the
Got
truck, and Slug, because they have at the end of Bad Magic, when Natalie gets upset, Natalie takes the suit and flies off and is sitting on top of the Field Museum in Chicago, which we just went to in April after C2E2. She's sitting there and she's practicing Natalie's smile by basically watching old memories that they had. And Slug snaps up the suit. And so now Riri is officially without the suit. The crew is coming in to jump Riri. And Zelma just pieces out. I'm like, why don't you just teleport you and Riri to your alternate dimension where they can't follow? Would be my thing. And so we have a cool little fight scene where Riri's basically got to adapt and improvise some fights with people who seem to be overmatched physically and skill, because she's not like a trained combatant, I don't think. So she kind of has to run and hide and outsmart them rather than try and stand toe to toe with them, because she gets rocked a couple times throughout the fight, but does end up overcoming them. And at the end, Natalie in the suit escape, and only for her to run into Ezekiel Stain at the end of that fight. And he's been augmented with all types of bio cybernetic enhancement that he had created. And then we find out that Hood has put in a verbal command override that I think they erased his name and put Hood's
Parker.
name.
Yeah, Parker Robbins.
Yeah, Parker Robbins in there. So we knew that was going to come to a head later. What did y'all think about the fight scene between Clown, the twins, whatever their names are, and it was funny when she punched the truck and then flipped the truck off.
Flip the truck off.
Yeah,
That was a good scene. I actually liked I did kind of enjoy the fight between Riri and Clown. Like you see, we're constantly seeing Riri use her environment and like build things and create things, kind of outsmart her opponent. So I think that like that speaks to her genius, her ability to think on her feet. And into the card, the smashing of the card was very Iron Man-y, so that was cool. Like her, I liked how Natalie kind of pulled up, grabbed her, the little flip, hit the ground, boom, and then flip. The flipping off of Slug was funny. That was like cool. It made like I don't know. That's one of the things that like I enjoy about the show. That like we have we have a version of a legacy character who share similarities to Tony, but still remains there. Has their own integrity as a character, has their own identity. So like that felt for me like this is kind of another introduction to Riri. I was like, I like that. That made her funny and distinctive. Then into the fight scene with Ezekiel. That was a cool. That was overall a cool fight. I was worried. I was like, this man just ripped off her armor.
Yeah.
He was tearing it up. I was like,
That was
but
terrifying.
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the series could have ended.
Last episode. That would have been the season finale.
Yeah.
I would have been mad, but that would have been a good season finale. Be like, stop right there. Be like,
Mhm.
next season, right there to be continued. I would have been like, that was kind of like a rough moment because I'm like, she getting whooped right now. So I'm like,
Mhm.
this ain't gonna go well. And it was the way he kind of was like, you need to get out of town. You know, there was still this level of like he didn't go full villain, but there was still some like empathy for her. He still felt like he was trying to protect her in some way. So I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it was a cool little fight scene at a White Castle.
Yeah. The only reason I think he stopped was because he didn't want to become his father. He didn't want to become
Yes,
Obadiah.
I feel that.
And the fact that in the news they villainized him now and basically made it look like his father was this beloved character. I guess nobody knows that he was trying to kill Tony Stark and and take over, but
Yeah.
nobody knows that. So
I think that too. I also think that he had empathy for her because he did help her, or she helped him, like develop his technology a bit. She got him into a world of trouble, because I think Riri has problems properly considering other people,
yeah,
um, but I think he was able to recognize, like, at a pretty prominent point, she was a solid friend to me. You know, like she understood me and my circumstance, and probably she's the only one, or she was the only one who kind of knew about his circumstance.
yeah,
So, how could you not have a soft spot for
yeah.
that?
And she also was smart enough to drop the nugget about Stewart to Clown. And I knew that was going to come to a head once Clown did her research, which comes to a head later after. And Clown, what do you think? Her and Stain were the ones that were supposed to go on a date.
Same. Is that the
Ezekiel.
guy who got killed?
Ezekiel.
No,
No,
Ezekiel.
Ezekiel.
Oh,
She did. I felt like there was some energy, but like I felt like she kind of found him attractive. I feel like there was some line that was mentioned.
Well, she also lies to Hood about. Remember, she corroborates his lie about killing Riri.
hmm
That is true.
And
She did. I did kind of was like with you
yeah.
there.
And so
I
later, go ahead.
I just saw that as like Clown had a soft spot for Riri too. So I
Yes.
thought it was just a mutual moment
Yeah.
where, they were like, "Come on, man. She's not all bad."
Yeah.
She ain't that bad.
So yeah, they that was an interesting fight scene. I liked it. I knew they were going to call his bluff later. They were going to call Hood's bluff as a crew, and they did. And it's kind of a turning moment for both characters where you see Riri embraces her group around her, and then you see Hood push the only people that were literally close to him away. Like, forget I got to do it myself. I'm gonna do it myself. And so they're supposed to be going on this last heist that we find out later is his pop's house, and he ends up doing that alone. We see Riri is this episode where we see Riri in the shop. They go back to the shop to make the suit. We get like a montage of them building together. Everybody kind of adding their little 2 cents into it and helping. Even Landon, the little kid that was carrying stuff in the cart, he's in the shop now. And listen, his help. Zay is tolerant of AI, Natalie, but I don't see him directly interacting a lot if he can help it. He's just like, look, I'm gonna let this be for now because this is how it is, but that don't mean I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I'm here for Riri, and that's it. And did you guys notice that the GA in Gary's garage was unlit, so it only had the R and Y? So now it looks like Ree's garage.
I did not notice that.
Oh, I missed that.
Wow,
I missed that. Dang, that's a good catch.
look at that.
That's a good catch. I did want to talk about Gary,
Go ahead.
and that that's I was gonna say hallucination. It's not hallucination. The projection. Oh my gosh, the memory.
The
And I
flashback.
was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, like this is so adorable. Like to see this kind of like father and daughter like soft moment, vulnerable moment, and it was very beautiful to kind of see that on screen. To see that connection, and then kind of like he kept calling her Ironhead, and just like thinking about the connection to Ironhead, Ironheart, like very similar. So I thought that was a really nice scene that helped. And her mom also, this in general, I want to like hats off to like the writing of the mom. Like she was like very supportive
Yeah.
throughout this entire time. Like journey of her daughter. Like, she was like really like being that motherly figure. It was like, hey, like I want to help you like process your trauma, and like we got to face this together.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I was even getting emotional, like, oh my god, like this is happening. So it was like very like it was beautiful. Like I was like, oh my god, this is nice. So I like that little moment, that little flashback, and that was a nice way to remind Riri's character, like, it's not like you need those good times to like motivate you and kind of push you through instead of focusing on the negative or what's wrong or the problem. Thinking focusing too much on what the problem is and think about like the people you have around you. So it was beautiful. So, yeah.
And to keep it a buck, Riri was being a jerk to her mom the entire time.
Yeah, she was going on greasy. He was kind of like
talking to her crazy, being out of pocket, and I think because her mom felt like, well, because you're grieving and we've all had this huge loss in our life, that's the only reason I'm gonna give you a pass, because I know you're going through something, because I'm going through it too. But understand that I'm going through it too. That's the thing. I'm like, how do you not understand that she lost those people too?
I think there's a combination of like her grief, of course, but also the fact that she has logic so high up on a pedestal in her internal world that it contributes to what I was talking about earlier, just like her having trouble properly considering other people. Like she is only focused on her actions, and she is claiming that her actions are for the good of everybody. But I'm like, you're not being present with anyone aside from yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get those 2 episodes, and then the past is the finale, and I think that one opens up with a flashback. We see Parker. Oh, you mentioned Ironhead. You know who else called her Ironhead? John. When he goes up in the second heist, when they're going through the mushroom farmer.
Wow.
Remember, she's snuck out of the suit and she's underwater, sneaking into the bottom of that underwater like little mushroom lab or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
John walks up to the suit, not knowing the only thing that's in there is Natalie. He says, Ironhead, where's such and such? So he called her Ironhead as well. But in the beginning of this other episode, they flash back to John and Parker getting ready to do a job, and it's clear the dynamic has changed because John seems like he's the one in control in this instance. Kind of like he got his start where John was the one in control, and I guess it's at some point whenever Parker gets the hood, those roles kind of change because he's got more power at that point. But we learn that they're actually robbing, or they're trying to rob, his pop's place, his father's mansion. When they say we're going to be the ones sitting in the fancy mansion, and they go in, Parker gets caught by one of the security, and John saves him by shooting the security, and they flee the premises. Obviously not successful at that time. That kind of comes full circle because in this episode here, after Parker's discarded his crew, he basically goes back to the mansion himself and confronts his father for kicking him out at 12 years old. So we learn the background of where Parker gets, why he's doing what he's doing, basically, and why he is the way that he is. So obviously Pops was affluent, doing his thing, and he's a part of these corporations that Parker has been systematically hitting in Chicago. Tunnel, I forget the one that starts with a G, but it's art something. We see the billboard with his father's face on it outside of the pizzeria a few times in the show. But he's got another company and he's rich, and that's what he wants. He's basically, I'm taking my inheritance. He's got this contract. He threatens Pops, like, you're going to sign this and sign everything over to me, similarly to how he's been doing with all the other CEOs. And then later we end up finding out, I think he kind of gets this from Mephisto, this whole idea of the contract. and making a deal with somebody, forcing them into the deal that's supposedly somehow advantageous for you, but in the end, there's really a price to pay that's too steep for whatever you're getting in return. He kind of in turn started doing that, and now Riri's kind of falling into that same line of making deals with stuff that you don't want to do because now she's implementing magic into her suit. We saw Zelma painting. Was that on the ceiling? She was painting the symbol.
Sigils?
Yeah, the sigils on the ceiling above, or because it
I
didn't look like
think
it was on the
so.
ground.
I think so. I think it
Yeah,
was the
It's
ceiling.
possible.
yeah. So yeah, they're imbuing magic in this new suit they're putting together. Kind of cool. We skipped that part too. That they're making it out of the Camaro or whatever the muscle car is. That
Yeah.
so that's where it gets its color scheme from. Obviously, it was a sentimental thing because she thought she had lost the car because she pawned it, and then to find out that mom's when she found out, she went and bought it back because she knew it was valuable to her. So now she's making her suit out of the car that her and Gary were always working on that they never got to road trip in because her and Nat were gonna eventually road trip. She's like, remember, I want the wind blowing in my hair, so put some jets on it. Get to it, genius. Was what we saw the conversation between her and Nat. This is the final fight between her and Parker are in this episode, right? Where she finally takes the rope from him.
Hmm?
Yeah.
It's the last episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely
Mhm.
a fight.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that fight between them two?
I enjoyed it. I was honestly, I was very hype because, like, after all of the prep and then seeing the suit, the first thing that came to my brain was like they made her a Gundam battle mage. Like
Okay. I like that.
Oh, okay, okay,
she's a
okay. I like
Gundam
that.
battle mage, and I was so excited. I was just like, man, she's got this suit, and she's got the blasters, and she's got the magic, and she about to be fighting. I was so hyped. I was over the moon about it.
I like the suit first of all. I thought the suit was dope. I don't know. I feel like so. I feel like there is like I like their suit because it wasn't like it didn't feel like Tony's where it was more like form fitting.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah.
they were trying to make it, but then there were like bulkier points to it that did remind me of a Gundam. And I'm like, I like that this feels like a it's like a slightly bulkier suit, like it's bigger than her body.
It's
It
like
makes her
armor, more
taller.
like
Yeah,
armor,
yes, it felt more like armor. And I was like, I like
which
this
is
design.
it's just interesting. I do think
Hmm.
that like the design is interesting by itself, but also
Hmm.
like thematically, narratively. Like Tony Stark, I feel like, his suit was close to the body. I feel like he in general is more confident person, more like self-assured, all of that, and was more willing to put his life on the line for stuff all the time. He just very reckless, right? um Riri, she's got a lot of, like, she has all this trauma that she's not processing, and she keeps people at like a very stiff arm distance. And so I feel like that's reflected in how her suit looks too, where she's like, I actually don't want you to get close to me at all. Like, we're not doing no hand to hand stuff. We're not
Yeah.
doing that. We got the blasters.
Yeah.
The blasters.
Yeah.
I wish the only thing that was kind of missing for me was her AI being with her
Mhm.
during this fight to give that into because I feel like the banter
Oh yeah, that would have been good.
would have been different from Tony Stark's Jarvis
Yeah.
banter in the suit because I think Natalie has so much more personality because she is basically a digital reflection of the actual person and would say things that the real Natalie would have said.
Yeah.
Um, I think that would have been funny and cool in the moments of that fight. But she comes out victorious, strips Parker of the robe, and you see like smoke and stuff coming out of his body after he rolls on the ground, and he looks almost like a drug addict. Once
So I got
the
a demon. So I got a
yeah,
demon monster.
like
Yeah.
she done took the hit away from him. He can't get a hit no more. She took the cloak, and we see later on that the cloak is kind of she doesn't have the armor on, but the cloak is draped over the cloak. I did like the fight scene, and it was interesting that we see Parker come to the shop. But how does Zelma not recognize him?
He's never been to the shop. She would have never seen him.
She wouldn't have known what he looks like from Riri at all, though.
I mean, that's to assume Riri would have been like, Riri would have had like files and briefings up of like what this person looks like. But like, if I went to somebody and I needed some information or I needed some tech, it's not really conducive to be like, hey, put like put a piece of paper up or be like, hey, this is the person that I'm trying to fight. Unless I need you to fight with me and I need you to like stop this person. I didn't think it was necessary.
I mean, I think it probably was necessary, but I also do think Riri is still on her journey of proper consideration.
And communication.
Just because I feel like if you know that this dude is trying to kill you, okay, and he has magic, and you've enlisted your friends, you finally gotten to a point of enlisting your friends for help to help you fight this entity of a man, okay, I feel like yes, they're helping you, but you need communal contingency plans put in place where you're talking to the people who are helping you about what to do about it, which would have included a sit down meeting of like, this is what this man looks like. This
is what he looks like.
This is
But
what we need
Riri
to
not
do.
thinking ahead. She wasn't being logical. It's just like, I need y'all to do stuff for me.
And
so it kind of makes sense why like people compartmentalize and nobody knows what Parker Robbins look like probably besides Riri, the gang, and who else?
Yeah.
And Ezekiel.
Yeah, I'm thinking from the perspective of I've taken a piece of the cloak that this man wears to your shop for you to analyze for me. I might want to let you know what the person that actually wears the entire cloak.
But she didn't even think about that the first time. She was almost kind of strong armed to go to this shop by her mom, you know. So she's not there yet.
Yeah, she ain't thinking like that. Most people would have been like, all right, this guy will beat me up. We gotta get him. This is what he look like.
Yeah. At the conclusion of everything, it was interesting to see Parker go, and he asked for Supreme help. Which I'm thinking was he hinting at the Sorcerer Supreme? Which
that's Supreme help.
Yeah, which at the time I think would be Wong, right? It wouldn't be Dr. Strange.
No. Where is Strange again?
Well, what?
Where is Strange again? I haven't.
Well, the last we saw of him was like at the end of the last Spider-Man movie, right? Or did he have his own movie after that?
Multiverse
Yeah, and I can't even remember what happened after that. Felt like forever. I just remember he did some stuff and disappeared.
Okay. Yeah, what I'm saying though, at the time though, the Sorcerer Supreme is actual Wong and not
right. Well, yeah, Wong is, but I'm wondering where Strange at.
And so if he's asking for Supreme help, he's enlisting the help of Wong, not in fact Dr. Strange at this point.
Fair.
Or he's asking along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see what his part in it is, and we get the final scene where Riri, who thinks she's meeting up with Dormammu because she calls him Dormammu Man, and we see Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto, and he's like, basically Dormammu is not worthy to wipe my butt, is basically what he tells her. Did you catch the reflection in the spoon?
Yes, I did.
Jordan, you're looking like you did.
Wait. Maybe. Now, when you said that,
basically, when he's doing the get out stirring of the coffee / tea in the reflection of the spoon, when he takes the spoon out,
like I saw
there's a comic book accurate visage of his red face in the spoon that you see actually Mephisto's true.
Like he looked like the devil.
Yes. Okay, I vaguely recall this. Okay, wow.
Yeah. So we've also seen flashbacks of him in this same episode where he meets Parker, and when we see the Desperate Burrito, whatever the name of the false pizza place is, I think at the end of the robbery gone wrong is where Mephisto has that door. They go through the door and disappear from the security chasing him. Riri, we see, is at the same spot talking to Mephisto, and basically he's trying to woo her into a deal. And at this point, again, she's thinking of solving a problem and not being worried about the consequences of said problem. And I would say I don't know because he offers his hand. She does not shake it. We don't see it getting shaken. But then when they flash again, we see her with Natalie. And Natalie reaches out and pops her on the forehead, and Riri realizes she's not a hologram. This is
Yeah.
a physical entity. So it's seeming like not Mephisto, in exchange for whatever, has brought Natalie fully back to life for Riri. And I'm like, well, they still haven't said whether she's actually made the deal until I see her hug Natalie. And then you see the striations of the black, like almost like tattoo ink, stride through her forearm, letting you know that just like Parker, she has done the deal. And
I was so disappointed.
yeah, so I'm thinking, does it mean that she did the deal with Mephisto, or does that mean that she has whatever symbiotic relationship with the cloak that Parker had? And if it's both, I think that's even worse. She did the deal with Mephisto and she's got the cloak. She's like got a double whammy going right now.
I just feel like I feel like, and honestly, what I hope is that like if we get a season 2, that like they really make it worth the fact that they cut the season so short by explaining the extreme consequences of making your best friend come back to life. Like I feel who has died, because I feel like in any universe, like that's not a thing in anywhere.
Yeah.
Like that you can't bring back the dead. Like I feel like comic book universes, Marvel included, that's been consistent as well, where you really can't bring back the dead.
Yeah.
Granted, to be fair, I really don't know that much about Mephisto. I don't know. I mean, obviously his power trumps Dormammu, so obviously he got some stuff in the bank. All right,
I don't know
all
about that.
right. But listen, I just feel like going back to what her friend said about like how all magic has an equal exchange of energy.
Yeah.
Like if this is what's required of you, there's a great cost. Okay. And so just like Parker with the cape, he wanted power, and I feel like the cape was siphoning his own power of himself to try and make all the stuff he was trying to do happen. So
Yeah.
that's how I interpreted like how the cloak was like eating away at himself.
Yeah.
You know.
I think Mephisto is gassing it right now because at least maybe MCU Mephisto is more powerful than Dormammu, but Dormammu is a cosmic level being,
Entity.
whereas Mephisto is like a demon lord, devil type character. I don't know if he's as powerful as Dormammu. He's not like a celestial being. He can kind of manipulate things, and he can take on many shapes, but I don't think he's on the level. But he's gassing it up like he's the big dog. He's obviously the big dog in this show because Hood is not the big boss in this one. He obviously is the manipulator behind the scenes. Yeah, I hope we do get answers to the price that Riri pays. Either, I mean, if we get another season, that would be cool. But they're gonna have to answer those questions at some point, I think, throughout the rest of the MCU. I think that was their plan. They may probably do that rather than risk another season, depending on how well or not they did. If they did well or better than what's been going around, but I don't know if I trust what's been going around because there's been a bunch of BS people review bombing and all that before the show even came out. So I don't know what's real and what's not, which as far as the ratings or not. I think it was like at 80 something last time I checked. I hope it gets another season, but if not, then I hope at the very least Ironheart gets sprinkled in there into the MCU so that we do get to see the conclusion of all this and what it means in the grand scheme of things. Because now with Mephisto in the picture, it kind of opens the Pandora's box of doors. Because as we know, there are a bunch of other characters in the MCU that he's manipulated, at least from the comics. Even Peter Parker was manipulated and ends up losing. He gains one of the family members he loses and loses his marriage in the process. So yeah, there's always a give and take with Mephisto. Even maybe we can get some Sons of Midnight, but like I said, because Blade is kind of up in the air, we don't know what's up with that. And then of course that's got to be Ghost Rider and all the other darker characters that we have. within the MCU, at least in the comics universe. I don't know if they're going to bring them into the actual MCU. We'll see what they do, and hopefully they take the gloves off if they do bring those characters in and
Mm.
give us a realistic depiction of them. I like the action of this series. I like, ironically, I like the heart of this series. I like the emotional entanglements between Riri, the grieving aspect of it, her panic attacks.
Yeah.
Riri has panic attacks and can't breathe. I don't know if that was done on purpose to basically kind of like an Easter egg for George Floyd with the I can't breathe stuff. I don't know if that was purposefully done, but that's an easy thing to kind of reach to. Like I said, the fights were good. I like most of the characters. There was no one here that really annoyed me. You know, sometimes you got that one or two characters that just annoy, like, what you doing? Like Riri was doing some dumb stuff for a smart
Yeah.
character, but I
Extra
wasn't.
dumb stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't as upset as I usually get at some of these shows where they show people just doing really, really dumb stuff. She's trying to solve a bunch of different problems all simultaneously, and she's in free for all from getting kicked out of school at the same time.
Yeah.
After losing her best friend and her father figure that was in her life,
Yeah.
just kind of compounds it. And now we're adding the variable of magic into it because she's dealing with the character that's not. I
The
can't fight
literal
you.
devil
Texas
done
Tech.
swooped in.
Yeah. So there was a lot here. I enjoyed the show a lot. Um, those are my thoughts on it. What do you guys think?
I loved it. Like I really did. I really love this. Like I like you said, I love the heart of it, the emotional center. Um I I really loved how like a lot of like the core of Riri's problems, uh I mean, not problems, but just like her core was her best friend. And the fact that she was able to make an AI unintentionally of her best friend, s- and that representation be so strong that when other people who met and interacted with her recognized her
Yeah.
as herself, like to me, I'm like that that depiction of such a strong love was so poignant to me because I'm like you she loved her so much that she knew her so well to like in her memories in her brain, like that she was able to replicate her so strongly that other people could recognize her very clearly, and not feel like she's a fake thing, like that she's like an uncanny valley version
Yeah.
of her best friend. Like that was deeply impressive and like to me a very poignant message of how strong her love was for her best friend. And so I loved that. Um, I really like how they handled um, Riri's mental health issues, her struggles here. I love how much love there was between her family towards her and her trying to parse through. I also really like the messaging of like there are limits to compartmentalization. Like you know, there are times when it's useful and there are times where it truly fails you.
Mhm.
And starts to work against you. And so I liked that illustration. I loved how they illustrated like a core tenet of her personality being like relentless seeking of information, of solutions. Like I feel like whenever she was presented or came up with a hypothesis or a problem to solve, that she immediately jumped into action to try to solve it. And so I thought that was they did a good job of doing that. Um, Parker was an interesting character. Like I loved the stuff like the moment when he confronted his dad because his dad sucked. His dad was awful. He was an awful man. Like
I hate you, Dad.
yeah, like I don't know if you remember what he said, but he was just like, yeah, dead weight. It's better for the both of us if I left.
Mm,
Like
mm,
I was like, you should die. Like you're you're
mm,
you're awful. You deserve every bit of this. Like he's right to come back and take you for all you have. Like you owe him that. You owe him everything you got.
mm.
Um, and so I love that, but also I like how at the end because he's using the hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
You guys are still there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Sorry. The my desktop shut off, and so I thought my computer shut off because there's
No,
a
we
storm
were
in
still
my
here.
No,
We were
you did
watching the reaction.
it. I'm
Okay, I'm so
sorry.
sorry. Um,
Okay.
well, I can't see you all. I can't see anything, but if I'm still
Okay.
here, then
You
great.
here?
Um, but what was I saying? I liked how um I liked how even after Parker got what he wanted, it wasn't enough because there's still
Mm.
he's got a core wound.
Yeah.
Like a piece of him is missing because he did not have love. He didn't have the love he
That
needed.
that inner child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I love the moment where um like after Riri defeats him in the fight, and she took his cloak from him, and he looked so weak, like you say, he kind of
Right
looked like
now.
a drug addict, and he was just like, it's so hard.
Yeah.
And I loved, to me, that spoke to like how hard it is to kind of be a person of color without resources to get
Mm.
what you need in this life. And so that's how I took that when he was just like, it's so hard, it's so hard.
Mm.
um and so I loved that. uh I felt so disappointed at the end when she made that decision. It's compelling,
Yeah.
narratively very compelling, but I was just like, Riri, I feel like every story you hear growing up in life tells you not to make deals with the devil. And I'm like, this
Mhm.
man, like, he looks like the devil. All the vibes, like the room is shifting around you. The stuff is looking spooky. He's doing. I'm like, does this man not feel like the devil to you? Why are you not clocking with why why?
But it's zeros and ones and twos. She sees solutions and answers to problems. That's it. Jordan, give me your take, but also as a last question, do we think when Riri fell asleep and created the AI of Natalie, was that a seed dropped by Mephisto himself to manipulate all of this
Oh.
into more?
Mm. Okay. I kind of want to answer that question first.
Okay.
Um, I mean, that's an interesting theory. I feel like they would have, because it is interesting that like when we think about just like the situation and how magically, like miraculously, um, Riri goes to sleep and Natalie's consciousness is born from her memory. So it was like it was a miraculous thing. I
Yeah.
think for me visually that should have been like
A tell?
I don't know, it should have been a tell, like something color code, like some red pops up,
Yeah.
or like there might have been a haze of magic. Um, but like I'm curious, like because that leads in, that would kind of open up this question of like, is Mephisto always is he kind of like watching all the people that's tempted by the cloak, and
Yeah.
and like being that she only like is he watching specifically? No, I guess he's always watching for people who are weak enough to be tempted by the cloak.
Yeah.
So if we take that into account that he's been observing her, then yes, we could make the inference or conclusion or be like he might have tempted her because that would have been that could have been something that could have been used to get that something that would have been used against her later. The loss of her ultimately due to working, trying to use magic to integrate tech resulted in her finally going back to the handshake
Yeah.
and just
He
sacrificing it
mentions
all.
Yeah, he mentions basically manipulating a bunch of people and other. He
Mm-hmm.
mentions to Parker other clients.
Yep, he did
He
say
mentions
that.
to Riri about three popes and Ringo from the Beatles that
Mm-hmm.
apparently he had manipulated. But this is giving me Palpatine, Count Dooku to Anakin. Like
Mm.
Palpatine didn't really want Dooku; he wanted Anakin, but he needed to use Dooku to get to Anakin. So maybe Parker wasn't the end goal. He was really trying to get to Riri, so they had to meet and conflict to give that conduit to get to her.
Mm. That's
That may
interesting
be a
thought
reach,
process.
but it'd be interesting if that's
It's a good
the
reach. It's not the
yeah,
farthest reach. That's
yeah,
interesting. But I find that like overall, I agreed a lot with everything that was said. Um, Like for me, like I enjoyed the like yeah. For some Riri wasn't too annoying. Like I wasn't annoyed by her. I don't think the bar was high for me. I gave her grace because like she's a younger character and she has a personality. She's just gonna fly out the hill and try to do stuff. And like those people generally they make mistakes. And like this is a part of her journey of like she had to make a lot of mistakes in this for her to ultimately kind of grow. So her growth is going to happen obviously off screen, hopefully. Um, so like her character is very interesting. A lot of the action that we get, like the fight scenes with Parker Robbins was really good. I like that they kind of did the fake out with the like she blew up the suit but used a hologram. The VFX in that scene were also really good. Like I like the idea of like he's kind of when Parker was moving through the smoke and you kind of see his like silhouette, how he peers out of smoke, like that type of stuff was really good. Um, and there was something, Jocelyn, that kind of wanted to speak to when we were talking about like the love that Riri had for Natalie and like how all that went into the creation of that Natalie AI. But what's something that was really interesting that was kind of think like in a science fiction way, it's kind of like imagine if a computer could store all your lived experience and and you have some type of system that's able to take all your memory and brain memory and distill it down into one person or like a specific version of that person. And I think that would be like that would be like the best example of like how technology can work, where like I totally could see like if it in certain contexts, like if somebody were to like take all the memories, the subconscious memories, every single event, because our brain, we don't consciously remember everything. So it's like, imagine if we tap into our subconscious and like we would have like a better view of how we see people, a more holistic, objective view versus like if we fix a person in a point of trauma or our brain is thinking about just this is one note. But imagine if untapped your brain actually stores everything and you can see this. So I thought of all this stuff as it was kind of playing out. And I thought that was just like beautiful how like it was how we got that outcome. But it's also sad when like Riri couldn't recover her back again. And I'm like, she has to lose someone again. Like, is that loss?
I feel like that was extra sad to me,
Yeah.
just because like she really wasn't processing what Zelma was saying to her.
Nope.
Like
No, she wasn't
like I
listening.
was like, she said it's going to be a cost, and I don't think you're not processing twofold. You're not processing the threat properly, and you're not processing what that threat would cost you based
Mm-hmm.
on what she's explaining the requirements of like accomplishing your task is. And I just felt so bad. I felt so
Yeah.
bad because I was just like, in the words of Justin B, it's not clocking to you that you standing on business. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just, I
I can't
was
believe
like,
you.
she wasn't clocking it, and
She
I was
wasn't
like,
clocking it.
she wasn't clocking it, and I'm like, look, man, I need you to clock it, cause you
Mm.
gonna grieve, you you gonna watch her die twice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can relate, but
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Still, it
So
sucks.
that was yeah, it does. So
Sucks.
that sucks. So that was rough. And then when like for me, I was mad because like my family told me. So I think I looked down for a split second when Riri went to go shake Mephisto's hand. And so my family, we met up for 4th of July, and my dad and my sister were like, "Y'all didn't." She shook his hand. I'm like, "Wait, are you serious?" I'm like, "This wasn't like her daydreaming or like the potential." I'm like, "No." And I was like, "This sucks." And I'm like, "Oh," I'm like,
I
"Oh
think they do
gosh."
cut away though. I think because
Hmm?
you don't. I think they do cut away. You don't actually. You see
Yeah,
him weep.
that's what's annoying. They pulled an Inception where like you see the hand go out. You can tell that a hand was extended,
Yeah.
but like with it's still like I want to be optimistic and be like Riri didn't do it, but then again, they show us all these other nuggets that would imply like she made the decision and like I said, the daydreaming wants to believe it's all a vision because
Yeah.
they could write it that way. So we could start it next season like, hey, that was all a vision, but they're not going to do it. I'd rather her settle with the consequences, more consequences she's made because it seems like her character is now like has to make a bunch of mistakes to grow and change. I mean, but it's no different than Tony. And that's another thing that stuck out to me about the show. Like, I felt like a lot of like, there's a problem with having a lot of racism, but like, I felt like Tony might have been a worse. Tony was probably a worse person than Riri. Like his family's connections to weapons. Technically, he's a worse character. So it's like Riri isn't that bad. She's being young, making mistakes, but she's not like costing like countries, people's lives, whole families' lives due to warfare. So
I think
that's
they're
my
both
take on it.
dangerous.
Hmm?
I think they're both can be equally dangerous, mainly
They're both
because of
dangerous.
Riri's smart and may not have the resources he has. He's
Mhm.
more dangerous because he's both smart and has resources.
Mhm.
Like what can a broke idiot do, really? How many people can he really hurt? Not that many, unless you give him a bunch of money. Now we got a broke idiot with money. Now we got a smart person that had like they can blow up a whole bunch of like
Yeah.
we just seen this last 4th of July. I don't know if y'all seen that dude 4 Extra with the M80s blew up his own damn hand, like
Jeez.
stuff like that. Now imagine him with trillions of dollars.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I
That's
I
a
also feel
risk.
like Riri, like you said, she's smart, but she lacks resources. But I
Yeah,
also feel like she needs to grow emotionally.
true.
And I feel like because she is where she is emotionally, she's easily manipulated, and that to me is more dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, the naivety and the lack of street savvy to go along with the book smart she has is kind of her undoing, and like you said, kind of overlooking the consequences of what's going on. And Zelma telling her there's a cost, and she's like, yeah, but this will help me fight this dude that used magic, right? Okay, cool. Put it in there. Let's do it. I do like the fact that it's going to give Riri a different aspect to further differentiate her from Ironheart from Iron Man. If she comes in with this
Mhm.
dual technomancer, basically
Yeah.
magic use and technology and high level genius, I think it could make for a really interesting combination of outcomes
Mhm.
uh, that changes the way she ends up fighting villains, or if she ends up becoming a villain herself. Hopefully not, but
Yeah.
it's possible, especially if she's under the influence of some of these darker entities. We'll see. We'll see.
What I would hope for, I mean, or not hope for, I don't hope for this, but I something I think could be interesting narratively is if, like, you know, if what we see is real with Natalie being completely back alive, that the version of Natalie is different. Like she's like a darker,
That
like,
cemetery.
hmm,
Yep.
That
Yep.
cemetery.
Yeah.
hmm,
That's
hmm,
what I want. That's what I
yeah,
want. A little hard. Give us some hard.
Oh
yeah,
no,
Yeah. That's what we need. I
yeah,
want that.
yeah. So
it'll be
that'd be good. I'd like that.
We cool.
yeah. Well, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to discuss these things with me. We've had a couple lurkers I see watching us. I appreciate you, whoever you are, for taking the time out of your day to listen to us talk about these things. We will be uploading this video to Spotify, the Askari Cast, the name of our podcast, and in the description of each episode will be links once again to all of our websites if you are interested at all in our creative endeavors. Me as a writer and a comic creator, Jordan as a writer, comic creator, as well as Jocelyn as a artist and soon to be fully comic creator. Waiting to see Bears. It's still coming out, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you're interested in any of that, we'll check out the links in the description of the episode on Spotify, and we will talk to you all next time.
Peace.
See y'all.
Latest.